Welcome to No Borders with Brian and Carrie. Today we're having kind of a fun conversation about cruising and really kind of, is it for us, and are there certain situations where it might make sense?
Yeah, well, I think there are. First of all, this is a podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, any one of your most popular podcast platforms. So keep that in mind. I would say yes. I would say in a lot of cases, it does make sense. But what are the pros and cons?
Right. There's a lot of pros and cons. We just recently went on to a repositioning cruise not that many months ago, and it was a long one. It was 16 days, 16 nights, crossing over the transatlantic. And it was a great experience, and I would say that we learned a lot on that cruise about what we're looking for.
Yeah, what we're looking for, exactly. Because for most people, it's a bucket list thing to do. It was a lot of fun, and there are no cons. Well, for us, there were a few. We're going to cover some of them.
Right.
But we're going to cover all the highlights as well. And let's get after it.
Let's get into the pros first. So, the number one pro I would say as a traveler is that you get to unpack your stuff, and it stays unpacked for the entire duration of whatever length of cruise that you're going on. And for me, that was like such a huge positive, because if you were to go and see all of these ports, you're packing up all your crap every single day, or just not unpacking, which feels very disorganized to me. And so that was a huge positive.
That was a huge positive for you.
Do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So slow traveling the way we do, obviously, we only unpack once a month, but we're in that same location the entire time. So showing up in a new place every morning or every other morning or whatever the itinerary is on that particular cruise is a bonus. Getting to go to new places without unpacking and packing every single time. Yeah,
huge positive in my book. I think the next positive would be the variety of destinations that you get to see. So you think about if you were just planning a vacation, we've all done that, and you only have, say, a set amount of time. Say it's 2 weeks. How many places are you going to really be able to go see in that 2-week period of time? Now, I know that I went on a cruise, a Mediterranean cruise years ago with a friend of mine, and for me and her, it was an opportunity to really get to see a lot of different destinations that we wouldn't have been able to see otherwise, because you're not being able to fly to a new place just to see it for 2 days and then fly to the next place. And so I guess I kind of saw it as like a taste tester of different areas, because if you hopped into places, it gave you that immediate feeling like, okay, I know I want to come back to this place. I want to go see this again.
Well, you're talking about flying different places. What about trains and planes and automobiles and just the whole transportation thing? That is stressful. You do have to think about it. You do have to worry about it. You do have to figure out how to buy the ticket, what time to show up at the train station, what time the bus is going to show up. All of those things you have to worry about. Well, on a cruise, you don't have to.
Yeah, it's kind of all done for you.
All done for you.
There's the beauty of you wake up in the morning, you're in your new destination typically right when you wake up. I don't know, I'm an early riser, so sometimes we aren't there yet.
Somewhere we're not there yet, right.
But, there's a beauty to waking up in the morning, just getting ready for the day, going and having your breakfast, and then going and knowing you have that entire day to just go explore the area. Well, that's a huge positive too.
You just talked about just waking up and going and getting your breakfast. Now, some of these are going to be obvious to a lot of us that have cruised or know what cruises are all about, but the free food, you just go up and you eat. Yeah. Now, it just makes it too easy. Yeah. Too easy. You gain weight on cruises, and there's
unless
no
you
doubt
stay
about
really
it.
active.
Unless you stay really active. Like Carrie, but no, it is a definite positive just to get up and get after it.
It is. It's really nice. Now, another bonus is, like you mentioned, with the food, is all your amenities are included. So, when you're traveling to go on a trip somewhere, you've got to factor in your food budget. We won't necessarily say the drinking budget, because that's an add-on to a cruise, so you have to choose to do that or not. But, you have to factor in all of those things if you want to go and have entertainment or go to a show or anything, and so all of that stuff's included too. And so I think for a lot of people that is a huge bonus of just knowing that you don't have to budget that stuff.
Well, there are things that we have passed on that Carrie and I have not done, simply because we couldn't afford it, or we didn't think it was worth value. Well, if you prepay for everything, then you can just go do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the cost. You don't have to worry about, geez, is this in our budget, because you've already paid for it.
Yeah.
And so the cruise for us, what was a positive experience that we learned a lot from, and there are things that we would change.
Yeah.
And that if we were to do this again, we would make sure that those things were a little bit different.
We're different, yeah. I think that going back to like the amenities, and you saying that there's certain things that we didn't do because we couldn't afford them, was, you know, we don't typically go out for like a 4-course meal.
Right.
You know, I mean, we really never do that. But to be able to just kind of go to the dining room and have that. So, you know, I think that there's that bonus point as well, is that you're getting to maybe eat food or go to have those experiences that you normally wouldn't treat yourself to. So that also adds into the pros.
Right. And the other thing is, you know, we don't meet a lot of people when we're out and about. Now we're starting to a little bit more, simply because of our YouTube channel and the fact that we're in the same place at the same time as people that might watch us on YouTube, and they get in touch with us, and we are starting to meet a lot more people. But on a cruise ship, it's just that much easier. You're packed on with 3,000-4,000 other people, so it's pretty difficult. If you're not making friends on a cruise, then that's a you problem. That's on you.
That is. There's plenty of opportunity for it, and especially if you have a lot of people that are, you know, if you have just a couple like us, and you know, you're spending 16 days, I'm sure he would like to talk to somebody different along the path.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so plenty of opportunity to do that, especially in the dining room. If you get that seating where you're sitting with other people at your table, you can really get to know some other people. So I think for people, that would be a real big pro. And for your solo travelers, I will mention that I know for solo travelers, this is not necessarily a financial benefit for them to go onto a cruise, because it really gets you a much harder, you know, because you have to cover the full price of the room.
They cover the full price. Now I have read that they have solo rooms, but
I've seen them.
Yeah, you're in a closet.
They are a single bed, a little twin bed, basically in a closet. So, you know, those rooms are already tiny. I don't know how much smaller I'd want to go down.
Well, they do. They make them too much smaller. So,
another pro for a lot of people would be just how family friendly they are. So obviously, if you have children you're going to be traveling with, or young teens or whatever, you are going to be able to have plenty of activities to keep them busy. So, you know, it's kind of a win-win for both parties, because, or both parents and the kids, you get to go and enjoy the things during the daytime, you know, with your kids, but then the days that you're at sea and everything, the kids are entertained, and you're not having to necessarily always come up for something for them to do.
Well, you can wear them out real quick too, and set them down for a nap, and then you can go out and do your own thing, or maybe even take a nap with them. Either way. That
sounds like a better choice. Yeah, take a nap with them.
Okay, now there are cons.
Yes.
And we don't want to sound like we're nitpicking, or, you know, being a little bit, I don't know, nitpicking, I guess is the right word for it. But there's cons to everything.
I don't think it's nitpicking. I honestly think that after going on the cruise that we went on, we went with such an idea that we wanted to really evaluate, because we had both been on cruises before, but they had been these 7-day, shorter, kind of simple cruises.
Right.
With family and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so we went on to this last one with a very eyes open, how did it fit our lifestyle now as full-time travelers? You know, I mean, we look for things a lot differently now. We're not on vacation so much. And so, so I don't think it's nitpicking. It's just, it's no different than when we get to a new location. We judge how does it fit our needs? Yeah,
how does it fit our needs? And some of these kind of intertwine. You know, we talk about the amount of people on the boat that you can meet and make friends with. At the same time, there's a lot of people on the boat. So you're standing in lines for your food. You're trying to get around people. It can get crowded, especially on the repositioning cruise that we went on because of the weather. The weather wasn't the best, so nobody was outside. So all the deck space outside was empty. Everybody was inside. So the crowds are something that you do kind of have to get used to.
You do, and you know, I didn't anticipate that, because on the previous cruise that we'd actually went on 2 cruises in last year. We went on a cruise with your family to the Caribbean, and that was a 7-day beautiful weather, so everybody is outside. And so I kind of was evaluating that cruise. We hadn't booked our repositioning cruise yet.
Right.
And I was evaluating a bit of that cruise, like how I thought it would work for us, because the repositioning one, like we said, was 16 days. And I was like, oh, this is going to work great.
Yeah, we got a false sense there.
We did, because I would get up and I would go to the dining room. Well, the dining room would just clear out because everybody was outside eating, or they were doing other things outside, getting their their chairs around the pool. And so I'd have space to myself and be quiet, and I like that and I need that. And and then we get onto our cruise and it's cold as can be outside. Nobody's outside. I mean, there were few moments where people were outside,
but
hardcore. Nobody was in the pool. I mean, we saw people in the pool maybe 3 times out of the 16 days. It was not that kind of a cruise, so everybody was inside. And that really got to me over time, because I would go and just try and find a quiet space to go to.
Yeah, well, we had to shoot a YouTube video too, and that was difficult to do as well, because we had to find a place where there was nobody at, and where there was no background music.
And they play music everywhere.
Because YouTube, they don't like background music on YouTube. You get censored, and they get angry with you. So we had to find a place that didn't have music, that didn't have people, and that was quiet enough to where there wasn't a lot of dishes clanking around or anything like that. So that was kind of complicated. Now, again, we might nitpick a little bit, but it is what it is. The other con would be when you get into that really cool port that you want to really see, and it meets your expectations, but you've only got maybe 4 hours. That's something that, you get a taste for it, and then you have to go.
Yeah.
But you can always come back.
You can always come back, and I have a very good example of that one. So the cruise that I went on with my friend, the reason I picked the cruise that we did was because the stop was Santorini. And for me, that was absolutely bucket list location that I wanted to go to. And so we get there, we didn't book an excursion because we're like, no, we just want to walk around. Well, the people, because it's one of those, they have to tender you off of the boat. The people who had an excursion were the ones who got to get off the boat first. And so her and I are sitting there waiting probably a good hour and a half before we can get off the boat. We already have a super limited amount of time in Santorini. We get off of the boat finally. We get in there, we plug away and do our stuff. We maybe had 4 hours when all was said and done to go and explore this bucket list location for me. And I was super excited to be there. We did end up seeing a lot of it, so that was great. But did I truly get to enjoy it? No, I felt very disappointed. Lo and behold, little did I know that not long from then,
she was going to meet the guy with the 2 thumbs right here and hang out with him for a month on Santorini.
Yeah.
Worked out better for you anyway.
So we ended up, that was one of our first year of stops. We made that decision and stopped in Santorini, and then spent an entire month and explored the absolute entire island.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah, and it wasn't cruise ship season, and so we were able to really enjoy that. So, but that is, I would say, a major downside, is that you may go into a port that there's a lot to it that you want to go see, and you really have to take it with that idea that you're just going to get a taste of it.
Yeah, it can work to your advantage too. We went to a couple spots that we didn't like.
Let's
go get back on the boat and get out of here.
That's true.
A lot of that had to do with the weather, but another good example would be the Azores. We stopped in the Azores for an afternoon, and it poured down rain the whole time. It was beautiful. We do want to go back.
It was so
beautiful. We would love
beautiful.
to go back to the Azores. We've had a few people recently on our YouTube channel ask us if the Azores is in our wheelhouse. Is it something that we're going to be doing sometime relatively soon? And I don't know how soon we're going to get there, but it is on the radar, and it's a beautiful place. So that's some place that we would not have gotten to.
We wouldn't have, and we, unfortunately, like Brian was saying, the weather was absolutely horrible. Yeah. We did force ourselves to go walk around, and everybody on the boat kind of did the same thing. They forced themselves to walk. Nothing was even really open because the weather was so bad.
Right.
And so I enjoyed it, which was still absolutely beautiful. From the gym, I was on the treadmill or bike or whatever, and I was looking at it out the windows, and it was absolutely beautiful what you could see. So, I look forward to going back, but, that's the other downside, is what if you get into one of these great, like your absolute destination you want to see, and the weather isn't great that day. You get to go see it in that weather.
Well, and speaking of the weather, on this repositioning cruise, we had 6 days to cross the Atlantic.
Yeah. We didn't see another boat for 6 days.
You don't see much out there in the dark, and you can also get seasickness. I got a little bit green one night, I think it was the second night crossing.
It was going before we got to the Azores. You had a rough.
Was it before the Azores?
Yeah.
Okay, well, before the Azores, I got a little bit.
It was rough. It was really rough. People
you know.
were walking and having trouble holding.
I survived though. I'm okay now.
You did survive.
But yeah, so make sure if you do have that problem, you take care of it beforehand, which I did not.
Yeah, and then after that, you did. I had taken some medication with us so that we had that on hand. And honestly, if you have that, you're fine, and they have it on the ship if you need it. But if you are somebody who is prone to seasickness,
I tried to play it tough. I tried to be a tough guy, and didn't work out in my favor.
It can really. Make it not a fun adventure if you're going to be fighting that the whole time. So,
and then also, we worked it out. So, our time that we would have rented accommodations for the 16 days that we were on this cruise ship, and we added up our food, we added up our costs, and tried to determine whether or not it'd be worth it. And in our case, it was, because the cost kind of broke even. But if you're just to go on a cruise for vacation or do one of these repositioning cruises, the costs do kind of start to add up.
They really add up. I was actually just looking at some different options of cruises, and it's funny because you can look at that price that they show you, like, oh, you can go on this cruise and here's the price. Well, as soon as you get in there and you actually have the taxes added and then the gratuities, and we do understand you can have those removed if you want to, but you have the gratuities added, and then you can have the packages. So like say you do want the Wi-Fi and you want all that, all those hidden costs, all of a sudden I'm like, it went from affordable to where we were like, oh, that's actually isn't bad, to expensive to where, okay, does this make sense?
Now, we did take out the drink package. We went 16 days without a beer.
Detox.
We detox. We had juice, lemonade,
coffee, lots of coffee,
tea. Yeah, it was all free. Yeah. So that's actually a pro.
That we figured to ourselves we would stop and grab a beer if we wanted one on the cruise ship, because it's like, well, you can buy them as you go. You don't have to have the package. Right. But then when you look at the price of a beer, and it was like Coors Light for like $7
like
for a can. I mean, then it's like, okay, I just don't need to drink.
Well, and then we got into port at a few places, and we'll go grab a beer at some Irish pub someplace, and we didn't even do that because now we're in a zone. We're dialed in now. We're not drinking.
Right. It was that. True. It was that, and then it was also because nothing was really open. A lot of places were closed, and.
Well, we could have gotten a beer in Lorenz or some of these places.
Yeah,
we got
the one thing that we say when we're talking about the weather, we do know when you go on the repositioning cruises, they are usually not in the prime time of the season, obviously, because they're repositioning to a better location with better weather. So so you're not. That's not the norm on cruise
That's
ships.
not the norm. Now we have done a repositioning cruise video on our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on podcast, you can jump over and watch that if you'd like. And so we do kind of explain all that.
What's included
in that video.
Now, another con I would say would be that you are very much on a fixed schedule. So one of the things that we really enjoy is the ability to adjust our schedule, to kind of change things up. Say you do get to a location, you want to spend 2 days there instead of one, or say you went for a day trip but you really liked it and you can go back, or whatever. We can veer our schedule, but boy, when you're on a cruise ship, you are at their mercy and you're on a schedule. Not only on a scheduled location, but on a scheduled time.
Yeah, don't be late.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. There's a lady on our boat got left in Lisbon. She had to fly to the Azores to catch up with the boat, and at her cost. So don't be late.
Well, and we just heard about another one where it was a whole party that had gone, a whole group that had gone on excursion. So note to self: if you do an excursion, be sure to do an excursion through the cruise line, because if your excursion runs late, they're not going to leave you behind, because it was put together by the cruise line. So they know where you are, they know it's running late. But boy, if you go off on your own, because it is a lot cheaper a lot of the time to do those other excursions, they have zero guarantee they're getting you back in time, and you may miss that ship, and finding that ship again is at your cost. So you have to fly to another location.
I've seen TikTok videos where people stand up on the rail and they wave at the people that are running down the dock to try and catch the boat.
I just saw one, and they ran down to the dock, and he just falls down on the ground.
It's pretty funny, actually.
It's actually, I mean, it's funny and not funny.
It's funny to me.
If it was you, it wouldn't be funny. But boy, for the people, it's like, we're on the ship. We were ready to go. We're like, come on, let's go. Chop, chop.
We got to get to our next destination.
Yeah.
Now, with all that being said, with all those cons, with everything we know about cruising and whether it fits our lifestyle and what we enjoy doing, we're going to do another one.
We are going to do another one. Yeah. I think that
you hesitated a little bit. You kind of hesitated. I thought we talked about this.
We did talk about it. We are going to do another
one. We are
going
to do another one.
Yeah. So I think what we started to do was really evaluate, we may not necessarily consider ourselves cruise people, but at the same time, are there times that it absolutely makes sense to go on a cruise?
Right. I think that the positives are far outweighing the negatives.
Yes.
In certain situations.
Right, yeah. And so we have explored some of those situations of places, we travel full time. And so to get to certain areas, but before we get into like the certain areas, we figured there's other aspects to it that are also a real positive. And one of those is safety. So once again, if you are, say, traveling, you're not totally comfortable with traveling, you haven't been out of your own country to travel, and you're going to be exploring it, this is kind of an easier way to ease into it, where you're just getting off the ship, you're going into town for the day. But even just those ports of call that, there's some ports of call that you or countries, we'll say, where it's like, I don't know how comfortable I am, like flying in, navigating the whole thing to myself.
Yeah. We get a lot of questions again. How do you know which neighborhoods to stay in for a month? How do you book accommodations and knowing that that's the right area of town? Well, on a cruise ship, you don't have to worry about that. They're going to bring you into the port. They're going to get you into the tourist section of that town. You're not going to be there late at night. You're not going to have to worry about catching some Uber that you're not even sure, if the guy's going to take you where you need to go. Yeah. So there is a safety factor to, and I like the way you put it. It's going to ease you into travel.
Yeah, I think it just makes you, if you do have those fear levels of, say, going to another country, even just leaving, say, we'll just give an example, leaving the States and going to Europe, okay? So a lot of people have not done this. And so getting on one of these cruises, say you fly there, but you're going to get onto the cruise and they're going to take you into all these different countries. You just don't have a lot of that to worry about. Like Brian was saying, it's just a very simple process. You go in, and I think with that comes this feeling of, oh, that wasn't bad. Or I think one thing we've realized with traveling so much is you get to these other countries and a lot of things that you hear of like, oh, it's going to be bad, or there's, pickpocketing and scam artists. And then you get there and you're like, I didn't see any of that. I didn't experience any of it. And I don't know, the easing part, it just, you walk away feeling more comfortable. Yeah. And then you might be ready to then just get a plane trip over and stay somewhere for a longer period.
Right. And with that being said, let's just put it out there. Colombia is some place that we want to go. We want to go to Colombia. We've heard from other people that have been there that it's completely safe. And then we've heard from other people that it's not completely safe.
Right.
So which is it? Well, on a cruise ship, you just go in for the day, you check it out for yourself. You can always go back. And that's something that I think really appeals to us, especially in South America, Central America.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely more appealing. And those are kind of the areas that we have found, so there's a couple cruises that specifically appeal to us. And South America was a big one of them. Right. And there's actually a couple in South America that appeal very much to us. When we have looked to going South America, so we are going to be heading there in January, one of the struggles we were having, which we don't seem to have in Europe, is where do we want to go after? So like we are going to go to Argentina. We know we want to go to Argentina. We know we want to go into Buenos Aires. But after that, where do we want to go? Because we stay for a place for a month.
A month. Where can we stay for a month and enjoy it?
Yeah.
Santiago, Chile, perhaps, Valparaiso, perhaps, some of these places. Now you're going to fly up to maybe Lima. Ecuador apparently isn't so safe right now. Now, we haven't been there, so who really knows? So it's just one of those deals where we're not sure.
Yeah.
So maybe we should take a cruise.
Right. And so I started looking at some of these different cruises, what options were available at the time we were going to be in Argentina. And it's like, okay, so, because we want to go and see, we know right now we're not going to make it to Antarctica. It's not a real easy crossing. It's incredibly expensive to do. We go back to that seasickness thing, you're going to be experiencing that. And
I'll be
it
prepared
is over.
this time.
It's like 4 days because it takes a couple days to get out there, I think, and then a couple days back where you're at sea. So, but we knew we want to get up there and we want to see the areas around Patagonia and we want to see Cape Horn and we want to go see the penguins and we want to see all of that. But like we talked about, you're not going to go there for a month. You're not going to go and fly there and stay for an entire month and do it. So how do you see it?
You could. It's just not what we want to do. So how do you see it? Well, we think this would be a perfect opportunity. Now, it's interesting. We kind of researched this and we were looking at it and talking about it. And then we got a comment, you guys should do this. It's not that expensive. You get to see all these places you wouldn't otherwise get to see. And hey, listen, you're there, so why not?
Right.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Why not? Are we ever going to get down there again? And if so, how are we going to do that?
Well, and that's the thing is like we know that we'll be in Argentina and that's the perfect hop off point to go do this. And so if we're going to do it, we're not going to go fly back to Argentina again just to get on a cruise ship to go do it.
Right.
So kind of the opportunity is there. So we are very much looking into doing this. But it would be I think it's a 16-day cruise again, or maybe it was 14-day.
It was 14 days, I believe. Yeah.
And then it takes you up and around, and you go up to the Cape Horn and around that area, and then you come back to Chile, and you come into San Antonio, Chile.
Right.
And so it kind of answered a lot of our questions as we want to see those areas. None of these areas do we feel that we need to be in for any long stretch of time. They really are those places you can hop in, have the day, see it, and probably feel pretty satisfied with what you're going to see in a day.
I would like to go backpacking through Patagonia someday. Going like a 10-day backpacking tour through. Sure, that sounds amazing. That's also going to cost you about $4,000 or $5,000, and plus you have to get and everything else that's involved. So is it realistic? Well, this is a way we can get a taste of it.
Yeah, because when we were originally looking, because when we were a ways back, because our plans definitely changed when we originally were going to be going to Argentina during COVID. And we had looked at, okay, well, we're going to be there. So we want to do Patagonia. We want to go see this and we want to see that. Well, we were looking at buses, which were incredibly long bus rides. And then we were looking at, okay, well, you can fly. Okay, well, we all know that if you hop to one place and you stay for just 2 days and then you're flying out of that place to the next place, those costs really, really add up. Not to mention you're eating every meal out because you sure as heck aren't buying groceries in when you're only in a place for a couple days. Plus up in those smaller little podunk little towns, which we absolutely want to see, it's not like there's a whole lot of accommodations available there. So we were kind of adding it all up and this is not even in the realm of what we can possibly afford right now.
Not only is it not what we can afford, but the logistics isn't something that we wanted to tackle.
No.
Or that we still want to tackle.
Work.
It was just a lot of work, and we know how much work that is when it's an easy continent like Europe or even Southeast Asia. We're able to get around a lot easier than what we're finding, what we're reading, what we're researching to get around that region of the world.
Yeah, and so now that's one we're very much interested in. Another one we were interested in as well and that just kind of really made sense, and honestly one of the only ways you're going to be able to see this is to leave out of another South America town or a country there and then go through the Panama Canal.
Right.
So I think we were looking at one that left out of Chile and then went to, it was going to go through the canal and then come into Florida, which for us, if you're already in South America, that's another one of those budget saving kind of tips, is that if you're already going to be going to an area then it's maybe a really quick hop flight to, or cheaper flight to get back home.
Right.
It's not bringing you into some far off place. So you want to look at that as well. But that one made sense to us as well.
That one made sense to us too. We get to see Panama, I think Ecuador, Colombia. There was a couple others.
There were a couple places.
And then it brings you right back to the States. You fly out of Florida back to Seattle, real simple. So that's one that we probably will do also. And when we say real affordable, we're comparing now what it would cost us to fly back to Seattle from South America, how much money we'll spend in those 14, 16, 18, 20 days, whatever it would be, on a cruise ship. We add all that up and we kind of add and subtract. We have a formula, we have a system.
We do have a system
Right.
because for us, we don't have a home base, right? So that kind of makes it a little bit different because we can look at the price of say a 2-week cruise. Well, out of that, we get to subtract whatever we were going to be spending on our average spending costs of housing and what our average spending costs for groceries and any kind of drink, going out and having a beer or having a snack or things like that. So you get to kind of take that out of the cost of the cruise, which is helpful.
It is helpful. It does still cost us money to do the cruise.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't completely balance out.
Right.
The last one we did came pretty close, though. So it is something that we're able to do, and we understand that may not be the case for a lot of others.
Well, and on the point of, because we forgot to mention this in the cons earlier, one of the things that we very much learned that was a no-go for us, a couple things actually.
I know what you're going to say. Yes.
One of them is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was a major issue for us. We realized that we cannot go without having coverage. And so that is one of those expenses we will have to find the right cruise ship that has a lower priced plans and that we can go ahead and just put that in.
Carrie needs her TikTok.
That is not why I need it.
So
I felt like a sitting duck, like I couldn't do any work.
Yeah, she needs her Instagram and social media. No, we do the YouTube thing, so we do need Wi-Fi to keep up on the YouTube, to keep up on all those questions and comments. It's difficult to do when you don't have Wi-Fi.
Right, and the other one, quick just
this
note
is what
in
I
there,
thought you were going to say.
is laundry. We very quickly learned we would not ever go on a cruise again, especially a 7 days you could probably do, but a 14-day, 16 is what we were on, and we did not have the self-service laundry. Now, you can have them do your laundry. I know that is a fact, and they have this special day where they give you a bag, but oh my God, is it expensive?
It's like $35 for
it's ridiculous
one
price.
pair of underwear.
I would rather go to their little gift shop and buy something new to wear than to pay the price. It was absolutely stupid price. So, that for us was also just no go. So now on to another destination that we found was very appealing as well was the leaving from Southeast Asia, and this would be more of another repositioning cruise, and doing a trans-Pacific crossing and going from Japan, and then it went to Alaska, and then comes into basically drops us at home.
Yeah, it stops at my house and drops us off
Pretty much.
at my parents' place. So it drops you off in Seattle. So that would be something. I think in the three that we've talked about, I think the most recent one we'll do is probably from Buenos Aires over to San Antonio, Chile, and then this one, the Tokyo up through Alaska, and bring us down. You stay at four ports in Japan and four ports in Alaska, something like that.
Yeah, and and a lot of it is, those repositioning, a lot of them is at sea, but Alaska is such a beautiful, I went there, I used to commercial fish up there, and so it's like I did some of those trips up on the boat with my parents, and so I got to see it all, but that has been back in my young teenage years, and so
just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago. But it would be exciting. Brian's never been
to Alaska.
But we also know that's one of those where we would do the extra money to get the outside room because it's kind of all about the view for that one as well. So
right, but again, we pay the extra money for the outside room, but we're not paying for a plane ticket home because we're already home.
Yeah.
So that kind of offsets it a little bit.
It offsets, and the thing is that I think that one is a 22-day cruise. That is going to take you through Japan. Well, if we've already planned on being in Southeast Asia, right? Everybody who has looked at traveling to Southeast Asia, because we've gotten a lot of comments on that, you are going to have it's not cheap to fly from Southeast Asia back to the States, no matter where you're flying to and from. It is just expensive. So that's another pretty large thing that you get to subtract off of that because it is bringing us right back. This one comes, I think, into Vancouver, which same difference for us as far as the distance. Yeah. It's basically an hour from our home. So we need to catch a bus or have somebody come pick us up. So we get to subtract that entire flight cost off that we would have had to pay otherwise.
So we're saving money. We're making money.
If we get the outside room, we certainly won't be saving money, but it's, once again, you subtract all those things out and it really does take something that looked very expensive to being way more affordable
Right.
to do, and seeing areas that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
We wouldn't have, yeah, exactly.
You know, because in Japan, we know there's places we want to go, but would we have gone to 4 of those different places?
Right.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Now, there's also some others that are not even on the back burner, but they may be within the next year or two, and that's Northern Europe, the Baltics. Some of these river cruises would be great as well. So those are all things to us that do kind of make sense, despite the cons. Those are things that we might really consider doing sooner than later.
I think the moral of the story for us is that it got us to locations with ease.
Yes.
Not, I mean, we can always get to those locations. It got to us to those locations cost effectively and with ease. We got to check a lot of places off of our list that we probably would have never otherwise seen. And I think that definitely the pros outweigh the cons in that aspect.
The pros outweigh the cons. And, you know, we were asked recently, would we do it again? We didn't immediately answer. We went home and talked about it and thought about it. And it was kind of an easy choice. Yeah, we will absolutely do it again. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we will do it again with those things we learned, making those adjustments to make it more comfortable. So, well, we hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to catch us anywhere off of this podcast, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and of course on YouTube at Brian and Carrie. And then you can also find us on our website, brianandcarrietravels.com. And we will catch you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.